What's going on, everybody? Good late afternoon. We are winding down Friday here, and at this point, we got a pretty good idea about what the Seahawks have going into this weekend. We have a pretty good idea of what we're going to be going up against, and we're pretty chill right now, right? We're on a two-game winning streak. We're number one in the division. We, as a fan base, relatively chill. And when you're chill, you're more likely to be able to look at positive data and appreciate it. When the team is losing and you're not so chill and you see stuff about the team that maybe it's even positive, but a little bit harder to digest the right way when the team isn't winning. It feels more like a cope. It feels more like you're just trying to find some way to justify the losses as being beyond the control of the team. But things are a little bit better now than they were a couple weeks ago. So I want to take a look at some stuff that the wonderful X account called Stat Account. I think they keep getting kicked off and then they come back with a slightly different account name or something. I'm not sure, but I think this account comes and goes depending on the week. But they post some great data, and in the last couple of days, they have posted three really, really interesting charts that I think go a long way in telling us that this Seahawks team, some of these players are better than we think and better than their results, and maybe even a lot better than their results. So I want to go over this. Three charts, three bits of data, all three of them from this same account. By the way, if you're not following them, definitely go do that. Definitely go check them out. Digest their content in some capacity. You'll learn a lot. And let's take a look here. Basically, what Stat Account will do is they'll dig through the more obscure bits of data, not just the obvious stuff that's right in front of you, and put charts together trying to get their mind around who are really the best players in the league at certain positions, who is doing their job, who isn't, and basically give you something to look at beyond just the eyeball test, something beyond just the box score. And it's great. This is the kind of stuff that I love. So this first one has to do with cornerbacks. Cornerbacks from an outside alignment. So this is when you're not lined up in the slot. This is when you are lined up on an outside receiver. And let's take a look at the X and Y axes here. Let's blow up this chart just a little bit so you guys can see it a bit better, so we understand what we got. So the horizontal axis is tight windows per target. Now, a tight window is basically when there is less than 1 yard of separation, right? Less than 1 yard of separation. And that's tight coverage. I think we'd all agree with that. Sometimes a quarterback will complete a pass when the receiver is in tight coverage. That doesn't mean the coverage was bad. So you're kind of trying to filter out the bad luck. And then the y-axis, this one's a little simpler. This is just passes defended or passes deflected or passes broken up. It's a combination of your passes broken up and interceptions. And take a look at this. So let's start with the X here, tight windows per target. There are two players in the entire NFL that have a outside cornerback. This is lined up outside, have a tight window rate of more than 50%. You have Darrell Baker Jr. in Tennessee, and you got Riq Woolen in Seattle. So Riq Woolen is the elite of the elite at having tight coverage. And we definitely knew this earlier in the season when he was locked down. We probably could have guessed this like a month and a half ago. The last month and a half or so, it's gotten away from him a little bit, but it's important to note that even with that, he is still very close to number one. He basically is number one. Him and Baker are basically tied. And he's also well above average in the passes defended per target metric as well. So he's not making as many plays on the ball as we might be hoping for or expecting, But some of that is because he's just not getting targeted at a high enough rate to make those plays. He's still doing an above average job at absorbing those targets with good defense. It's over 20%. Now, a lot of players are over 20%, but that's still well above average. Average is about 15, 14.5 or so. But here's the thing. Devon Witherspoon, who a lot of people have been critical of this year, who is having a little bit of a sophomore slump, is in third place, and he's the only player, or one of three players, I guess, with a tight window rate of above 45%. He's at about 46, maybe 47. You got Denzel Ward back here at like 44, and then nobody else is above 40. So we've got two corners with an incredibly high tight window rate, and I think that a lot of people would not have assumed that when talking about Devon Witherspoon for the Seahawks this year. And unlike Woolen, Witherspoon also has an elite rate of passes defended per target over 30%. The only guy higher is Denzel Ward, and he's up at like 36 or something, 35, 36. Witherspoon's at 31. That's still easily second place, and 100% it's elite. In fact, if you were to take both numbers per target and passes defended and tight window rate, and you combine them together to try to figure out who the best cornerback in the league is, Witherspoon would probably be number one. He combines both metrics probably better than anyone else. So this is something that I don't think a lot of people would have assumed. They would have assumed that Witherspoon's more middle of the pack. Now, the reason why we're seeing Witherspoon struggle a little bit more than this chart would indicate is because he lines up in the slot sometimes. He's probably having a little bit of a hard time from the slot. That's probably where he's giving up a lot of his stuff. I'd have to look it up to be sure. But that's where it seems like a lot of the damage is being done on him. So this is something to remind you how good we have it with Witherspoon. By the way, Josh Joby, who I didn't even know existed until midway through this season, he actually has a well above average pass defense rate, and he has about a league average tight window per target rate when he's lined up outside. So even a guy like that is doing above average. And even Trey Brown, who has basically been put on ice. Yeah, the passes defended per target rate is really low. It's like just barely over 5%. Still doing average at the tight window rate. Basically just a tiny little bit below average. So even that's not bad. So yeah, that's eye-opening to me. That's something that I did not expect to see. So that's chart number one, just to remind you guys that we do really have the best corners in the league, and it's not even really close. Now, this has nothing to do with tackling. This has nothing to do with run defense, which is where Woolen really, really struggles. So I'm not saying he actually is the best corner in the league, but he's among the best in this particular area. And that goes for Witherspoon as well, who has not been as good a tackler or run defender this year as we're used to. But what I'm trying to say is there's still some stuff here that is great. Now, this second chart, same account, running back elusiveness. This also is going to get your attention because of how stark it is. So the x-axis, the horizontal is yards after contact per attempt. League average is about 3.2. And then the vertical is avoided tackles per attempt. And the average is about 0.2, maybe 0.205 or so. And you can see that each team has like one running back on average. There might be one team here that has two. So we're only really looking at each team's primary running back. It's a minimum of 100 carries. And when it comes to yards after contact per attempt, Ken Walker is bang on average. He's right at about 3.2. So in that area, okay, not remarkable, but you've probably already noticed what's remarkable here. He is in his own universe when it comes to avoided tackles per attempt. He is avoiding a average of 0.41 or so tackles per attempt. That means every time he gets the ball, there is approximately a 41% chance he's going to avoid a tackle. The only other player that is above 0.3 is Bucky Irving. And he is way behind. You can see that he's barely over 0.3. And then you've got James Conner at like 0.295. And then you got a couple other guys a little bit above 0.25. And then you kind of have a bunch of other guys just hanging around in the average or below average area. But Ken Walker, think about how different this chart would look if Ken Walker didn't exist. Think about how much you would be able to bring down the chart. You would be able to bring the chart down almost by a full 0.1. So, you know, I think we all know that Ken Walker is doing a phenomenal job trying to overcome this offensive line, and that his lack of production is not his fault. Sometimes, yeah, I don't think the vision is perfect, but this does illustrate how big a problem we have running the ball that has nothing to do with the actual running back. Ken Walker is making guys look silly out there. He is the modern day Barry Sanders right now. No other running back is avoiding tackles like this. And it's still not resulting in big yards because of, well, I don't think I need to say it. Like, just to give you an idea, the overwhelming favorite to lead the league in rushing yards this year, Saquon Barkley, is well below average in avoided tackles per attempt. But he's still dominant because his offensive line is just that good, right? Like, Saquon might win Offensive Player of the Year. Saquon might win non-QB MVP. Some people will argue that he should win MVP, period. But he is not making people miss the way that Ken Walker is. It's not even close. Ken Walker is making them miss at about double the rate of the league average. So, if you wanted to know how good Ken Walker is, that's a pretty strong illustration of it. And he still doesn't have a very good yards after contact per attempt because the guys just keep coming at him. You can't make one guy miss and get big yards in Seattle's offense. You need to make like 8 guys miss. So it's still not resulting in the production, but think about what this could be. Think about what could be with a better offensive line. And then the final thing I want to look at, again, same account, same kind of chart. This is a interior lineman pass rush efficiency for true pass sets. And I believe that true pass sets exclude like play action. They are more pure drop back. I don't know if they exclude bootlegs, but they might. They probably exclude like RPO where the quarterback throws it. Yeah, it's basically trying to more purify the sample size, so it's just straight up, it's just the straight up, like, what do you do when the team is just straight up passing it? So, a few different things going on here. The horizontal, the X, is win percentage, pass rush win percentage, right? And then you have the vertical, which is sack percentage. And I'm looking at this chart mostly because this is what I was talking about in my video earlier today. This is what I've been talking about a little bit this week. Byron Murphy. As far as interior linemen go, Byron Murphy is actually top 5 in win rate, according to Pro Football Focus. By the way, that's where this data comes from, ultimately, Pro Football Focus. He's top 5 in win rate. Milton Williams, DeForest Buckner, Chris Jones, Oza Odigizua, and Byron Murphy are the top 5. I think Cam Hayward might be tied for Murphy, for 5th with Murphy. But basically, Byron Murphy's top 5. Now, his sack rate is bang on average, 2%. So even that's not that bad or anything like that. But the point I'm trying to make here is, this is kind of what I'm talking about. There's a big discrepancy between his win rate and the actual amount of sacks that he's getting. And what does he have? Like half a sack this year? So there you go. That's how this is being reflected. So you're seeing Byron Murphy do this, even though he has a pretty high double team rate. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. I haven't been able to find that data recently, but we know he gets double teamed a lot. So if you were wondering about Byron Murphy, and that's another guy that people wonder about a little bit because he's not producing numbers, you look at something like this, and it reminds you that he's kind of getting unlucky. And that's kind of the theme that you find on these charts. Witherspoon's given up a lot of yards this year. And based off this chart, if you trust this data, it seems like he's kind of getting unlucky. Riq Woolen given up quite a bit the last couple of, maybe the last month and a half. He's given up a lot in coverage. Seems like he might be getting unlucky. Walker, definitely unlucky just from the jump. Maybe Murphy too. I think that's really what this comes down to. By the way, while we're here, Leonard Williams is also on this chart, and you can see how good he's doing. You want to be in the upper right, by the way. That's good. He has a well above average sack percentage and a pass rush win percentage for an interior defensive lineman. So, yeah, he's cooking. By the way, you can find Jaron Reed right here, very close to the middle. So he has a slightly below average sack rate, but a above average win percentage. And Roy Robertson Harris is slightly below average in both categories. Or, excuse me, slightly below average in win percentage, but slightly above average in sack percentage. I think that the sack is probably left over from his time in Jacksonville, for whatever that's worth. I don't think that they drill down just by what he's done in Seattle. I think that this includes his Jacksonville numbers. But regardless, that data is there if you like it. But the main focus here is Murphy, top 5 in win percentage. So he's doing his job. The fault, the issue that has occasionally come up with this defense seems to be on other places. So, yeah, that's I hope that you learn something from this. I hope that this is illuminating. I hope that you look at this and you go, huh, I thought this, but as it turns out, that. And that's good. That's good to do sometimes. All right. I'm going to get out of here. See you guys later. Probably going to stream Demon Souls later tonight. If not, I'll see you guys tomorrow with the videos. And yeah, go Hawks. And it's good to remind yourself how good you have it. Because the players that I talked about in this video occasionally get a little bit criticized. Even I do it sometimes. And I'm not saying they're immune from criticism. Woolen absolutely deserves to be criticized for the tackling and run support. Walker does occasionally try to do too much and try to go 1-on-11 instead of just taking the yards that are there. But the big picture tells us these guys are really good at football. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think down below.